There we go. You should be able to see comments too if you want, Randall. They're going to be popping up.
And we're live.
I'm loving the hat, by the way.
Cool.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
That thing's awesome.
Trying to be a lumberjack, but don't call me Jack.
No, it's perfect. I love it.
Call me Sue.
Lumber
Love
suit.
it. Where's your blue ox?
Out back, actually.
Yeah, nice.
Getting ready to go take him for a spin.
Mhm. So yeah, we've been having all kinds of stuff going on recently. We just got back from Salem, so that was a fun adventure.
Oh,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a very eventful month of October. How about you, Randall?
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's been eventful everywhere. Yeah.
What an exciting thing right now with all the energies ramping up.
Yeah. It's going crazy too. Man, the Schumann has gone nuts.
I saw that.
Yeah.
We're being blasted all the time, man. It's crazy.
We really are. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Happy Halloween. We're dressed up today. We got two Ghostbusters and the lumberjack today. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Comments. There we go.
Dipty says you're finally wearing your ghostbusting outfit. We went no joke on these, didn't we, Bradley? These are
Yeah, we
our
did.
authentic flight suits from the military that we
Yep.
decked out.
Yep.
I've never had so many pockets as a woman. Having 30 pockets in an outfit. This is unheard of.
That's more room for crystals,
Absolutely. A lot more sage.
That's right.
Well, speaking of sage, it's funny. I'm well prepared for tonight because every good Ghostbuster has to have a good utility belt, right?
Yeah.
So I got like a proper professional. My mom was a sheriff, so I know exactly what kind of belts to get. I got anti-beastie sprays in there. I got some Palo Santo in there. I've got the big sage.
All right.
I got all kinds of stuff. Each one of these has a different beastie busting tool in there. I even have some sage in the pocket. Well prepared today.
Need it.
Yeah, no kidding. So today the plan is that we were just gonna hang out, answer some questions, maybe tell some stories. I wanted to have Randall come on here because Randall, you have been probably one of the most important people I've met in my life in regards to getting me onto a certain path. Our meeting was like a big crossroad in my life. They got me on a whole new path.
Well, I appreciate that. Timing is definitely everything. That's for sure.
Kidding.
We need this. It really needs to happen more and more and more across the planet. More and more people need to know how to do this because it's not that hard. You just got to be psychically aware.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. Because as they say, everybody is a medium, but not everybody is a practicing medium. Not everybody knows their medium. Not everyone is doing the work to strengthen that skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. What do you guys do?
Well, to be honest, we're kind of all over the place right now, aren't we, Bradley?
Yeah.
We take a concept of being able to converse with spirit and we run with it. And wow, as soon as I say that, my ears started ringing very loudly. They're like, don't forget we're here. Yes, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
Come on in.
Yeah.
So it's been one of those things where we're just trying to find our highest excitement in all of this. But the thing is, all of it is exciting.
It absolutely is.
So how do you find your highest excitement amongst everything that is exciting? So I'm just kind of trying all the things right now to see where I kind of fit into it.
There you go. There you go. What do you do before you, what do you prep? How do you prep before you do any type of soul retrievals or anything like that? What do you do?
Psychic protection, definitely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yep. Psychic protection, definitely. And validating the guides. Because there's a lot of imposters out there, a lot of tricksters trying to, convince you of things that are not true. So you really want to make sure that your team is very closely connected. So you get to know your team very well. So that takes time to develop,
Absolutely.
Do you know about who are your guides, Randall? I haven't heard much about your spirit team.
I don't usually mention those guys too often. I kind of like to keep them secret, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I
yeah,
love that.
I have a lot of them, and I give thanks to them every single day because it seems like you're doing something all the time. Every day
Yeah,
you're doing something spiritually. I mean, if you're not,
absolutely.
you're on the wrong path, anyways. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't. I typically don't like to talk about my guides too often.
Understandable. And it's funny
Yeah,
because the guides don't often like to talk about the guides. They're like, don't
yeah,
worry about me. I'm just, doing my thing back here.
yeah.
You know?
But usually, what I like to use most are friends and family and loved ones of those that are trapped here. I ask them to come from the light and assist and help with the healing. But that's what I like to do, and it seems to really work. Very, very well. I do it all the time, but yeah, I like to ask for friends and family and loved ones to come in, and it helps because if you have uh, somebody in the light that comes forth, like your grandma or somebody, you're not going to tell your grandma no. You're not going to tell your grandpa no. So
Exactly.
if you bring them over, you're going to have 100% success rate as far as crossing people over and helping them to go home. So I
That's
like to
part
do
of my
that.
daily protections, actually, is calling in my ancestral line, but not just ancestral, but like soul family, because they may
Absolutely.
not be related by blood, but related, through the soul line. So that's part of my day, every single morning. That's part of my protections that I do is I invite them into my space, and then just kind of set the intention of whoever's right for me throughout the day, because one day I may be doing this and the next day I may be doing that. So I may need this person in my life that day and the other person in my life the next day. So I just kind of put that intention out every single morning as part of my protections to invite them all in, to help me stay sovereign, to help me chase beasties away, whatever the case is, to help my own soul for growth and healing, to help anyone that's around me. If I go to Walmart or the grocery store, like I set that intention for my soul family to help anyone they see that needs help.
Very
Yeah.
good. I do the same
And,
thing.
and you can do that too. If, like, let's say if you're somebody who, I mean, you don't even have to be well connected to your spirit team. If you go into an area that you can sense is haunted,
Yeah.
like maybe a cemetery, for example, where there's always going to be earthbounds wandering around, you can call upon somebody like Yeshua, for example. He always comes when you call upon him to open a door and help those to cross over, because there are some that get stuck. And I'm curious how that happens. Like when you die, everybody kind of expects to see this tunnel of light, right? Where your ancestors, your loved ones come forward and then you cross over to that tunnel of light, but it doesn't always appear, or at least it's not always visible to the people. Don't even know that they're deceased.
Just that is
So
true. That is
so I
true.
just wonder, like, how long does that door stay open? And do you need somebody else to come and open it
That
for you
door,
the second time?
that door is always there. It's just a matter of recognizing that the door is actually there. And when you do, it will open up, the light will appear.
Yes.
A lot of what I've discovered over the years is fear seems to be what keeps people here the most. Is fear of the unknown, fear of hell. I grew up in a Southern Baptist family, so every time you turn around, you're going to hell for something or another. So I decided to get married. They were right. I did go to hell. but but anyways, so yeah, fear, fear, and not knowing you're dead. I mean, when I died at 6, I didn't know I was dead. I don't know. I was hanging around with some spirit beings. I didn't know I was dead. So a lot of people don't know that they're dead, and they'll reach out to touch people, and there's no response, and they try to talk, and there's no response. So you don't know you're dead.
They think they're getting ignored, I've noticed, because there was
Absolutely.
a gentleman that I crossed over the other day, and I was like, how, well, if he knew he was dead? And they said, oh, no, he didn't know he was dead. And I said, he's just in the house with the family? He goes, yeah, he thought they were mad at them and they were ignoring him. I was like, really? They thought that you were, I mean, he's been deceased for a long time. So that's a long time to ignore somebody in the house.
Absolutely. You would think that they would get tired of that and try to move on or something, but it's a loop.
So I asked Sam about that one time, like why it's like that for them, and what he showed me is that it's because they're in between, like kind of in between worlds. for them, it's very much like think of like a lucid dream,
Yep.
one that like you're just kind of going through the motions that you can't really control because you're not coherent enough to know that you can control the dream and things like that. And that's kind of what he showed me, is like they're just kind of in this dream state because they're in between us and
Oh,
I lost you.
Riley, your sound that was weird. Your sound is just gone. Can you hear us still? No, your sound is just gone. Your mic disappeared. That was weird. They were like, silence.
Yeah, apparently they don't want us to
bring away all the secrets.
Quiet the guy.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'll just use these then. It said my microphone was disconnected. Literally, it popped up on my computer saying that. Sorry about that. But that's just what Sam showed me, is that it's just because they're like in between. They're not here and they're not crossed. And so their perception for them is very much like a dream state that's like they can't control, you know, like, and then like think of when you wake up from a dream and it feels like you can kind of remember the dream, but it's very wishy-washy. Like that's kind of how their perception is. So they really just think they're in this perpetual cycle of not being seen and not being heard, and they just don't know how to come out of that, you know?
Yep.
And there's a lot of, I think, you know, when you, like, for example, I went to the gas station and was doing stuff, driving, and I picked up an Earthbound at the gas station. They just got into my car. And I was like, I said something, actually, there were two of them, right? So I said something to Zach later on that evening, and I was like, do they know they're deceased? And he goes, yeah, one does, one doesn't. And I was like, okay, so I mean, I get it. The one that does know they're deceased, I can understand why they'd be like, well, let's see what happens here if I get into this person's car. But the one that doesn't know they're deceased, are they just getting into some random person's car at the gas station, being like, hey, maybe this is my car? And then they get into it. And Zach was like, they're just very confused. They're kind of in like a dream where they're very susceptible to influence either by entities or by other spirits or even by the living, because they don't know they're deceased.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the blue-gray world. It's the blue-gray world. Yeah.
It was funny. Was it yesterday or the day before? I was hanging out with Carolyn doing some clearings, and as I'm hanging out, I hear somebody walking on my stairs in the house, and I'm home alone, or it's supposed to be anyway. And I hear, clear as day, somebody stepping up and down about 3 or 4 of my steps. So I said to Carolyn, and I was like, can you just check my house really quick? And she goes, oh, yeah, there's an Earthbound in your house. And I was like, does he know he's deceased? And she goes, yeah, he knows. And I was like, can I help you? I was like, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, this is the first house I've walked into that somebody knew I was here. And he's like, yeah, I've been wandering around from house to house. And I was like, how did you end up in my house? And he goes, well, think of it kind of like when you're walking through dark woods and then you see a cabin with all the lights on and it just looks very warm and inviting. And that's just how I saw it. I just see this bright light and I followed it, and you were the bright light. Your house with you inside the house was the bright light that I was attracted to. And I was just curious as to what it was. And so that's why I came in. And he's like, I wasn't trying to be, you know, like, you know,
a peeping Tom.
Exactly. So I had a nice little conversation with the Earthbound before I was like, are you done? Like, are you enjoying yourself walking around? He goes, it gets pretty boring after a while. Yeah, I'll happily cross. That's fine. Thank you. So we opened the door for him and crossed him over. Bye, John. You know, like. So it's funny though, because Earthbounds, they do. That's just kind of what they do. They wander. They're just curious. I wonder what goes here. I wonder what goes there. Because I went to Edinburgh and I remember went to the place where they burned witches, and I said, well, where is everybody? There's only like a couple Earthbounds here. And they were like, oh, they're spread all over the world now. They've hitchhiked. They're all over the place. They've jumped on travelers and just decided to see the world.
It makes you wonder what Earthbounds think of Halloween when they're all just out doing their thing, and all of a sudden there's all these freaky things dressed up, but they don't know they're dressed up. It makes you wonder if they're like, oh, what the hell is that? You know?
Well, Randall has done some really wonderful work in clearing battlefields as well, Randall, and I love that. It's one of the most exciting things right now for us, as well as we love doing, clearings in battlefield areas. And when you have, it's different for them. Those
It
are
absolutely is. Absolutely.
they're not seeing the world changing. They're not seeing cars driving around. Those Earthbounds who died in battle are still locked into the battle. So that's different.
Yep, they're in the loop. Got to get them out of the loop.
Do you mind explaining a little bit about how they get stuck in that loop?
It's when you have a bunch of souls together, it's kind of like you signed up for this as a group, and it's the connected consciousness of everybody there that holds that type of space for them to get stuck in, because they all die within minutes of each other. So that's a collective consciousness, and they just kind of hold each other there. And usually what I find in situations like that is you got to find the person who seems to be in charge of everybody, because usually when there's a haunting here or there, there's somebody who's in charge. It kind of tells other spirits and souls and so on what to do, and yada, yada, yada. So if you find the one who...
Would that be like the leader, like the general that was leading?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, kind of, sort of. Yeah, leader, whomever listens to the person in charge, we need to get the person in charge. So the person in charge is the one I like to go to and get them to cross over first. And then when that happens, usually the rest of the group will go with them relatively easy. It's just a matter of trying to communicate with them. And that's what I find too, is the communication. You have to have some sort of communications, either psychically, mentally, telepathically, whatever the communication is, in order for it to really effectively happen. You need to communicate with the spirits that are there. You have to, some way or another.
Well, they have to be able to know that you're there, to be able to kind of pull them out of that confusion.
Well, they know we're there. They know we're there. We just don't know they're there. I mean, we do, but a lot of people just don't know that they're there. So you got to tune into that vibration. And when you do, now, that's when the magic happens. But yeah, communication to me is the key. But finding the person in charge will usually facilitate the healing to take place within the space.
Yeah. So when you have that one person and you cross them over, it reminds me very much of, I grew up on a horse farm. So when you have a whole herd of horses that are kind of milling about, if you get the one leader of the herd and you pull them into an area, the rest of them will follow. So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you guys do any type of psychopomp work on people, or do you just go to places?
Well, honestly, it's both. We prefer to do the places because I feel like we can do more. When you're crossing over, we crossed over the souls at Culloden. There were over 3,000 souls still fighting each other around Culloden in Scotland. That is, if you imagine how many Earthbounds, how many individual cases and clients I would have to clear to cross over 3,000 Earthbounds. That would be we average find like 2 or 3 on a client,
I know. So, I feel the same way when I do the large places too. Wow. Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah, I do love the small cases because it's nice to be able to have conversations. I had a lovely conversation with somebody just the other day who was deceased and was, just very chatty and lovely to chat with. This is during the Salem clearings that we did. I was talking about George Burroughs. George Burroughs was my favorite. He was lovely.
Yeah, George.
Yeah, George was great. I can feel he's here now, actually. He's probably listening in right now. Hi, George. So, when you have conversations with them on an individual level, I love that.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to choose, like I love having personal conversations, but I love helping the large groups of people too, because I know that makes a big difference in the vibration. And not
Absolutely.
Only that, but what else is interesting, Randall, which really hit me. We didn't notice this until after we had done a couple clearings on a couple areas down south, that in a battle, you have the soldiers who are still fighting. But then on the outside, if you look away from the battle, if you're further away, you see all these other Earthbounds that are still watching the battle because their loved ones are in that battle. they're still waiting for him. They haven't crossed. Some of them are like, no, my husband went off to war and he's never come home. So I'm not crossing until I see my husband. Many of them are still waiting. So they will go and they will wait around the outside of the battle, watching the battle happen. So when we cross over the soldiers, we follow the cords that the soldiers had, and we ask the guides, "Hey, can you follow the cords to loved ones and see if there's any other earthbound family that are waiting for them?" We found tons more. That's how we crossed over. I mean, there were like 25 people who died in Salem from the witch trials, but then we crossed over like 2,000 more connected to those 25.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, right? Because a lot of times people don't want to leave. If they have a loved one and they haven't connected with that loved one and they don't know where they are, they're waiting for them still.
Yep. Absolutely. That's crazy.
So, I mean,
have you ever experienced any layering?
The layers are, well, thanks to Kat and Merlin, we learned about the layers.
Okay.
Because as many people are aware, like if you go to an area as a medium and you're tuning into a space, like let's say a train station or something, just a random location, you're only going to see like maybe 10, 15 earthbounds walking around. There's not that many in that area because those are the ones that are, just kind of in that upper layer, the top layer, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then once you start going back in time, you start moving back through the layers of time, you start to find, I mean, there could have been, we found like indigenous people that died like 2,000 years ago on a battlefield. Even though they're not part of that battle, they still died in that location and they're in a deeper layer stuck somewhere. So we love when Kat and Merlin come in to join us because they lift the layers. They actually kind of push up all these layers. And then she asked like Bradley, and Carolyn to gather the earthbounds as they come out of the layer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, we get a lot. But to be honest, like there's certain areas you don't even realize how much history is there because some of this is even flood damage. We've even found trauma related to the Great Flood from 12,000 years ago in these layers.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And sometimes it's not just like earthbounds and stuff like that. It's like you're talking soul fragments and other things that's also trapped there that people can't get back until those layers come up,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How do you see the layers, Randall?
When I do hands-on healings on people, I'll get images and things like that of folks who are there. So I've removed attachments off people, of thousands and thousands of attachments off of people. I had this one case that really gave me an education on layering. I was working on a lady. She had called me when she landed. She would come back from vacation and she said, "I need to see you. I need to see you." Okay, come over. So I'm working on her and I put my hands on her head and instantly I'm taken to a scene of a guy who has a wheelbarrow and he's pushing the wheelbarrow and this wheelbarrow has bodies in it. And he's taking these bodies and dumping them in a pit. Then he'd go back and get more bodies and take it and dump it in the pit. I had to back off the lady because, I'm thinking, what the hell? This is crazy stuff to be seeing, especially attached to somebody, because I can see her laying on my massage table, but there's nothing else there. But when I touched her, these images came to my head. So I'm working on this and I'm working on it. I'm looking at it and I try to get the guy that has the wheelbarrow. I try to get him to cross over and he would pop out and then he would pop right back in again. It's like, what is going on here? So I would do it and he'd pop out and he'd come right back again. And it's like something said, you need to take care of the people in the wheelbarrow first, and then you can take care of him because those in the wheelbarrow are attached to him.
Yeah.
So, and then once I got them to cross over, he went over pretty easily. So attachments can have attachments. Like, for instance, if you kill somebody and that person attaches to you, now you have an attachment. And if you die and you don't know that this person's still attached to you, now you've got an attachment. So now that's a double thing you got to deal with. So yeah, that's what I was referring to as layering. But yeah, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, we find that too, because we honestly, like the other day, I found a young lady that's been dealing with intrusive thoughts for a long time, like really clustered thoughts, And we went in to check and see what was going on, and there weren't that many entities attached. There's only like a demonic, and those are pretty common. So I was like, I wonder what's causing the issue. We got down to Earthbounds and figured it out. There were 3 Earthbounds that hate each other, and they were all attached to her. So 3 Earthbounds. One was, I believe, so what? This happened in like the early 1900s, where a woman was killed by a man that wanted her. Her lover killed the man that killed her, and the 3 of them were in this like death loop / rage loop stuck together. The 3 of them all died technically together because of this love affair situation. So all 3 of them were attached to this one lady, and she was hearing all of it. She didn't know what she was hearing. It's just like 3 people fighting in her head. Yeah. And as soon as we cleared it and crossed them over, all of that went away, and she no longer had any of that going on. So yeah, you can have people that are in your etheric that are like at odds with each other. That makes you feel like you're at odds with yourself.
Exactly.
And you know what else is interesting too? When you were talking about the wheelbarrow and seeing that vision, we often see a lot of past life resonances, which is like past life trauma that people carry with them. And whenever we find like vows as well, vows that carry over from lifetime to lifetime, if we find any grief, like extreme grief in a vow or in a past life resonance, we've now been taking that to a deeper level. And I'll be teaching my students this in the new class that we're teaching in a couple of weeks, where if you find grief that is still prevalent to this day, especially in a new lifetime, like you're a whole new person now, and you're still carrying that grief. If we follow those cords of grief, every single time we found an Earthbound, every single time, they're still carrying that grief because they can still feel that their loved one is still stuck, is still in misery somewhere and needs help. And they don't consciously know it. They may not consciously be aware of that fact, but there's like this emptiness, this feeling of longing that they can't get rid of, and they don't know why.
Yep. I believe this is an emotional planet, and we came here to work through all of our emotions, and we have so many of those.
Yeah.
So, and I tell people too, most of the time that, if you're an asshole in life and when you die, you're still an asshole. So that's the type of personalities you got to deal with too, and doing extrications and, spirit removal and so on and so forth. So yeah, that you got to, there's no difference between me and you guys. If a person dies, same thing. Your personality does not die. That's who you are.
Nope.
I think if there's one thing that I could give to the collective is to let go of the idea of good and bad, because that's been pushed on us for so long.
Absolutely.
And just simply look at it as positive and negative. You can't have one without the other. And, negative isn't bad and positive isn't good. It's just simply the duality that we're in, And so you have to have those negative experiences in order to figure out how to have positive experiences,
Dolores Cannon talked about that quite a lot. She would say, it's all good and evil is just a matter of opinion and perspective.
It's what's been taught to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which dog do you feed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
And let go of the concept of bad and beating yourself up over something that you've done. That's the biggest thing is, people think like, oh, this is so bad. And then now you throw Christianity into it and you have to reap what you sow and all those little sayings that they have that comes with it, repent, forgiveness, and all the things. And it's like, you just need to let go of all of it because it was just an experience, what did you learn from that?
You know what the judgment is? This is funny. If you look at it this way, this is fact though, but this is funny. We will become everybody we've ever encountered in our life, review. In your life review, when you die, you will become everybody you've ever encountered. Your interaction with them is going to be what you're going to experience and how they interacted with their family and friends. You're going to experience all of that.
Oneness.
So, part of that, for some of them, I'm excited for that, and others, I'm dreading it. I'm like, oh.
Well, I am too, but still, it is what it is. We're,
Yes. One of the, Randall, the craziest mushroom trip I ever had was when I took a God dose, as Terrence McKenna would call it, and I went into this vision of my life review, but it wasn't like a typical life review because I was watching it on a big screen in a movie theater. And as I'm watching my life on the screen, I look at the crowd who's watching it with me in the theater, and it's everybody I've ever met. Everybody I've ever met is watching the film with me. And like there are times where the movie would get sad and people would cry with me, and there are times where people would laugh when I'd be laughing and all these things. And then at the end, I got a standing ovation. Everybody clapped and gave me a standing ovation at the end of the movie when I died.
Very good. That's a good life review. That's a good one.
Hey, if it's anything like that, I'm it'll be exciting.
It is. And we judge ourselves, so that's the big thing. We're our own worst enemy anyway, so we judge ourselves. Right. That's why I brought that story up.
Yeah, yes. And if you really take a step back and look at your life and everyone that's in your life is really a reflection of just who you are on the inside.
Exactly.
Because it's the law of attraction. You're attracting who is meant for you vibrationally. So look at who's in your life and think, do I have nice people in my life, or are people assholes all the time? Like maybe that's a reflection of who you need to do some inner work and think about who you really are.
Yeah, we call that shadow work.
I said before you diagnose yourself as clinically depressed, first make sure you're not in fact just surrounded by assholes.
That's exactly. Yeah. So to say what we're talking about right here holds true in the spirit world as well, and the blue-gray world, because they go through the same stuff that we're going through, and they're talking too. And why aren't these people listening to us? Well, maybe we're dead. No, maybe we're not, because you got one person fighting against the other person. We're dead. No, we're not. We're dead. No, we're not. So what are we? We're confused.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who are you going to call?
Lara Starr.
I had one person who commented not too long ago on the podcast. She's a nurse or something in the ER, and she came out of work one night at like 3:00 in the morning at the end of her shift, and she sees this homeless person across the road collecting cans, and then she realized he was an earthbound, and she was like, "What is going on?" Like, because she saw him disappear, she saw him walk off and vanish, and she thought, holy shit, what did I just see? But she was confused as to how he was picking up cans, because she was seeing him picking up cans. She even walked over to the alley and looked, and there were no cans on the ground. So she's like, were those ghost cans? Like, what? Like, she's just confused. And so I looked into it, and there was another person that said that their brother, when they were deceased, was talking to somebody on a ghost phone. And I thought, well, that's interesting, a ghost phone. And he said, yeah, he was talking to his girlfriend who is deceased on a ghost phone. And I'm like, can you do that? Like, can you manifest things in the astral through thought? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. That's part of what causes the confusion.
If the connection is strong enough between the two and the vibrations are high enough between the two, yes, you can communicate. Absolutely.
So they seem to be more locked into the 3D physical than the 4D astral. It's almost like they're more interactive with the physical. So that must be that they still probably have that overlay of confusion, thinking that they're still alive.
Yep.
This is why so many people go to the gym, and like you see earthbounds pretty much everywhere, just going about their day. They're still working on leg day and don't even know they don't have legs anymore.
It just surprises me how many earthbounds are just really, I don't get it. I mean, the light appears, buddy, I'm out of here.
Yeah. I did see someone ask that. Someone asked that question earlier. We could talk on that. They asked if you've had like a traumatic death, how do you cross? Like, how do you set that up to make sure that if you have a traumatic death that you do cross over? Because a lot of trauma deaths end up in loops and things like that. From my perception is just setting your intention to do that. Ask your spirit team, say, hey, no matter how I go out in my life, I am using my free will to ask you as a spirit team, guardian angels, to make sure that I cross. Help me in that way so that I don't get stuck. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's one way in my mind to ensure that you get help if you do die in like a traumatic way.
Well, they say prayer works. There was that one gentleman,
Yes.
if you remember, who died from the that fire. He died with all those poor kitties in that one devastating fire that happened a couple months ago. And it was like an animal shelter that burned down, and he went back in to save the cats, and he didn't make it. And so we checked him to do a lost soul rescue just to make sure that he was okay. And when we tuned in, everything was already clear. Everything was bathed in white light. All the cats had been crossed. The gentleman was in heaven already. And I'm like, what happened? Like, did somebody already come in and do this? Like, and I started asking around, like, did you do that? Did you do that? And so it turns out, we asked later on, they said the community prayed for him. And it called in all the angelics, and the angelics were the ones that came and cleared him and helped him out. Because the community came together to pray for him, that helped him. That sent help for him. So that was really beautiful. I mean, I didn't realize, I mean, I know prayer can be powerful because you're setting your intention, you're giving consent for help, you're getting the attention of spirit and saying, hey, I need this, or hey, this is really important. But to see it actually, you know, I didn't have to lift a finger. It was already done. It was really exciting. And it gave me hope that there are people out there that don't even have to know what they're doing. They're just praying and hoping that they can help. And people mock it sometimes. They're like, oh, I'm sending thoughts and prayers. You know, like they make these kind of like a mockery of it. But sending thoughts and prayers, from what I've seen, actually works.
A prayer absolutely works. Awareness. For me, it's awareness. Prayer, I pray all the time, but awareness. We, the three of us, are aware that there's more than just this computer and more than what we're doing right here. We're aware that there's more dimensional, this multidimensional, and we are multidimensional beings. So for me, it's awareness. And a lot of people who are struggling with, am I going to cross over when I die? Is it traumatic, or for this and that? You're not aware of the fact that there's more than this. We aren't the body anyways. We're just a physical representation of our spirit, and we're energy. We're all energy. So I don't get it.
It's kind of a state of fear too. Like if you're asking that question, like it's already like a fear-based mindset of like, well, what if I don't cross? Like, I don't like saying what if. I don't even like that question, because it's, you know,
there's not an option. There's not an option. There's no what if. I mean, we're all going to cross. It's being aware. If you're listening to this podcast, when you die, regardless of how you die, you're going to cross over, because you're aware that there's a light that would carry us to the afterlife. That's the way we go. Most other people don't believe in this at all, and they think there's just nothing after death. When you die, we're done. We're done. Well, those are the folks that will get stuck, and then we'll have to go help them over. You know.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's really a mindset more than it is anything else. What's your awareness? And it's a mindset.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that having a more empowered mindset is really important anyway.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether or not you're thinking about death, but even with entities, you know, Bradley had a great analogy for how you deal with a psychic attack. You know, if somebody breaks into your house, you grab a weapon and you fight them, you chase them out. You don't get in the corner and say, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me, and cower and do nothing. You know, you got to stand in your power and say, fuck no, get that.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm going to cross you over.
Yeah.
I'm going to cross you over.
Yeah.
In both ways.
Yeah. You know? And, you know, when it comes to these death loops, this is the one concern that most people have, is that they don't want to get stuck in one of these death loops where, you know, it's you re-experience that trauma. We do find that a lot of times where somebody who was murdered or somebody who died a very quick but traumatic death, like in a car accident or something, they can kind of get that loop going. So I asked the guides about it, like, is this like a natural thing that happens? And they said, no, it's actually a side effect of our artificial 3D matrix. Like, this is not something that's supposed to be happening. So it's kind of like a glitch in the matrix in a way. So I asked, I was like, has this always been a thing? And they said, no, it hasn't always been a thing, and it won't always be a thing. After the 5D shift, death loops will no longer be a thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, really? That is really expiring. That makes me feel really good to hear that, because the death loop thing bothers me more than anything else.
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's a vibrational thing is what's keeping you in that death loop itself, because the higher your
Yeah.
vibration goes, the more aware you become.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's that shock too. You know, I think that a lot of people, if you didn't, because accidents do happen, you know, we do have free will, but everybody has competing free will. So you can't have a plan be changed without you even being aware of that. So it is possible that part of the shock that you go through is the lack of expectation. You just didn't know it was going to happen.
Exactly.
Somebody asked earlier too, they had another good question about this same scenario. They said, doesn't the higher self know you're dead and can help you cross? From my perspective, yes.
Well,
but the higher self will, but it will never impede on your free will. And if you're not crossed over from the higher self's perspective, that's part of your experience. You'll cross over when you're meant to cross over. And if you're not crossed over yet, the higher self's not going to help you do it unless you invoke your free will and ask for help.
Yeah, you know, and when you die, first off, the light does appear.
Exactly.
And then there is either your guides, family members, loved ones, or somebody's going to come forth from the light to assist and help you crossing over. So that happens to everybody, regardless of the scene or scenario, unless it's a group catastrophe, like a massive war or plane crash or whatever. They all sign up for that at the same time. So the awareness, again, once your vibrations are higher, you're aware. And when you're aware that, hey, I'm dead, I'm no longer in this spot, time to cross over, time to go home. You know, we can hang out for a little bit and help things out a little bit, but for the most part, time to go home.
Yep.
Most of them do want to leave. Most of them, especially if you bring over a family member and you're like, look, your dad's waiting for you.
Well, absolutely.
They'll be like, oh, you know, and you know what else is really funny? Sometimes they're a bit like, meh, I don't really care. And then you show them their dog that they had when they were like 6, and they're like, oh my God. And then they run to the dog, you know, like there's always somebody they're super excited to see.
Absolutely.
And their guides will know who that is.
Absolutely. And that's why I always ask for those specifics, you know, family, loved ones, friends, whomever, come forth from the light and assist and help with the healing. And again, when they see their grandma or their dad or me, for instance, my dog, I'm out of here, man. Shoot, you know.
The dog one was really powerful. There was a young man that we helped that was a murder victim in the UK, and he was curled up in the fetal position when we found him. And he was too scared to move. And we called his grandfather forward, and his grandfather put his hand on his thing, and he was still too scared, didn't want to do anything. You know what I mean? And it was his grandfather that called the dog. And as soon as the dog came running up and started like licking him, he started crying and holding the dog, and it snapped him out of his trauma.
Yeah.
That was a heavy one, Bradley, if you remember that.
Oh,
yeah, I do. I don't remember a lot of what we do because I set that intention. I don't want it to like replay in my mind all the time, but I remember some of those like that.
Yeah. Well, most of the time I don't remember them anyways because I'm out there.
Exactly. You guys are trancing, you don't remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll remember it a little bit, like bits and pieces when I first come back in, but then it's just like that dream that fades away, you know?
Yeah. But if it touches me emotionally, man, it's hard to forget those.
That's where exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, we are an
Nathalie
emotional
says, no
planet.
wonder dogs are considered psychopomps. Yes, Nathalie. Yes, dogs are also helpers with this work. They can help you spot earthbounds too. Dogs know when there's entities and earthbounds around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do cats. Absolutely.
We had a cat
animals.
really cool not too long ago. This person had a missing cat, and they wanted us to see if the cat was still alive. And we tuned in. The cat had been missing for weeks. We found the cat in the woods, if you remember. I think, Bradley, you might have been on that call. It was one of Katie's sessions. Yeah. And Carolyn was there, I think. So we found the cat, and we were like, is the cat fine? Well, the cat's fine. It's in the woods. Why is the cat in the woods? It's with an earthbound little boy and doesn't want to leave the little boy.
Yep.
So we were like, wow, okay. So we called forward. There was like a little boy. He was wearing like a little cap, like an old 1900s cap. So he'd been there in the woods for a long time. And we called for his mother, and his mother came and got him, and they crossed over together. And then we're like, well, what about the cat? And then the guys were like, oh, don't worry, the cat's hungry. We sent them a smell they can
It
follow.
was a smell like a scent
It was
trail.
a smell trail. They created a smell trail for the cat. And they said, oh, he's hungry now. He'll be home soon. 30 minutes later, we get a message from the girl going, oh my God, my cat's home.
Yeah.
We were like, holy shit. So isn't that crazy though? The cat was with an earthbound little boy and was helping. The little boy was very upset, and the cat didn't want to leave the little boy. So the cat was doing psychopomp work.
That's crazy. That's animals know. Animals know.
That's right.
And that's cool that they were able to create a scent trail too. That the guides were like, yeah, we'll make a scent trail they can follow.
Yep.
Like, wow, that's so cool. So Dipsy wanted to know, how do you wind up in a dark void? We find a lot of people in dark voids with entities. Yes. A lot of times they have a lot of overlays causing confusion. They don't even know they're deceased. They're kind of like, it's almost like a bag of holding. I'm sorry for the D&D preference.
I mean, it is. Yeah.
It is. They're like in a bag of holding. They just get shoved in there and
yeah.
they're in suspended animation, basically. They don't know what's happening around them. They don't know, how much time has passed.
And I think a lot of that has to do with willpower while you were in the physical.
Yes.
They didn't have a lot of willpower. So when they did die, then they were manipulated by whomever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of dark contracts. We find almost every person in a dark void has a dark contract.
Yep.
So it's the entities it's not just fear holding you back. It's an entity. In fact, we even find like chains and stuff on people, like being restrained.
Yeah, but the bottom line though with all of that is we are awesomely powerful spiritual beings with dignity, purpose, and direction, as Daniel Brinkley would say. So knowing that you're awesomely powerful spiritual beings, it's just willpower that they're letting themselves be manipulated, because we can break those chains. Oh, yeah. We have the ability, we have the gonads, and we have whatever else it takes to break those chains of that type of slavery.
So, but we don't know it, so we don't act on it. Is that what usually happens?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But you know what? I bet every single one of us on this podcast right now can relate to a moment in your life when you thought there was nothing left, and you were in such a down pitfall in life, and there's just nothing left. And at some point, you said, "I'm not doing this shit anymore," and you took a step up. And it's just like you shed the coat off and you became this new version of you. That's the energy. That's what it takes to break those chains, to step out of that. You have to have that willpower, that faith, the love, and you have to be willing to step into that.
Yep.
And that's what I try to tell people. Like, anytime you're going through something, you bring yourself back to that moment that you shed that nasty coat off and you walk the other way from some event in your life that you just couldn't handle anymore, and you decided to make a change for yourself for the better. That's the energy it takes to do that.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. When you rebirth yourself, Michelle says.
Yep.
And that is, honestly, it is kind of like growing pains when you're going through that. A lot of us go through a very difficult, it's almost like shedding the old before that happens.
Yeah.
And that can be painful in itself, because you lose a lot of things that no longer serve you, but you might not even know that those things weren't serving you anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like you lose your crutches and you're like, they're like, oh, you can walk. And it's like, but I've been using these crutches for so long, I don't remember how. Yeah.
That same energy that you can carry with yourself when you decide to make that change can free you of attachments. So when you feel down, you feel like you're struggling and there's just no end to the suffering. When you decide to make that change, you're not just making a change for the better for yourself. Like, you're letting go of attachments, like everything that was keeping you down and holding you there. You're shedding that. You're
well, that's how baptisms work. Good to know. That's how you go to church and they're all like, well, I've been an addict for 10 years and I've been trying to do this and I've been homeless, and they're like, welcome, brother. This is our chance for you to change and to step into this new light. And then we're going to baptize you and clear all the shit. And then they get like, with the holy water and all the things that they get, you get cleared in a way, especially
That's
if you
right.
believe it.
Because
if you
it's here.
Believe that God
Yes.
is coming in and is blessing you and clearing you and, shedding all of that stuff off of you. It lifts your vibration.
Absolutely.
It helps to release old, preconceived mental blockages in a way.
It's all a mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So have you noticed your spiritual growth since you've been doing the cycle pump work?
It's you know what it reminds me of? It's not water skiing anymore. I'm parasailing. Like
Yep.
I've all of a sudden, spirit's got the wheel of the boat and I'm just going up and up and up, and who knows where the limit's gonna be at this point. Cause Bradley and Bradley 6 months ago was just getting into doing work as a facilitator, and now he's already channeling and doing mediumship. If you think about it, not 6 months ago, about a year ago, Bradley, right?
It was about a year and a half. Well, a year and a half now since Colorado.
But he went from muscle testing, just basically being muscle testing himself, to being able to channel a galactic being.
Yeah.
So now ask yourself, did you think you'd be here 10 years ago doing this?
Not at all. But, I'm humbled by the compliments, and Lara's good at giving them to me. She does it all the time. But
I'm very proud of you.
From my perspective, it's been my whole life leading up to, it's just only been the last year and a half that I've consciously set the intention to go on this journey. But my whole life has led me to get to that point. I was doing inner child work, I was doing shadow work, but I had no idea what any of that was. It just came natural to me because I'm like, well, I don't like how this feels. How can I let go of this or get rid of it? So I'm like letting go of things. I'm apologizing to people. I'm making amends with people. I'm carrying a positive mindset. I really try to live by the law of attraction, and I try to speak kindly to people and use my words. Words can only be used in two ways. You got positive and negative. It's like a double-edged sword. So pick which side you want to use them in. And
unless you're a politician, of course, Bradley.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can use the backhand of the blade at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it really has. It's been my whole life leading up to. It's just been the last year and a half that I've consciously been choosing to go on this path. With direction, so to speak.
That's cool.
What a wild ride it's been, huh? Who knows?
My gosh.
In a year or two from now.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank Randall, because Randall, you have really, you and I haven't spoken much recently, but when you and I sat down that first time to have that conversation, Randall, really, you saved me so much confusion and so much of, when I first found Randall, this was before I knew about spirit release. I had only heard about entities through some of the Tegetten videos that they were putting out, and through some of the because in my line of work, which was QHHT hypnosis, my mentors told me it was all bullshit. Entities aren't real. They told me that that you never have to worry about being stuck as an earthbound. That those are just energetic imprints, is how they expressed it. So, people that I held in very high regard for many years and considered them to be, they know everything, I could learn everything I need to from them. And
the irony to this is we'll probably cross them over at some point too.
That's right.
Oh.
So Randall really helped me to, I was at a point of not knowing where to turn or what to do, because I had to unlearn some things. And when you have to unlearn some things that you believed were true, it makes it very difficult to navigate what might be true in the future, because you're like, it creates a lack of trust in your own intuition in a way. So I was really kind of at a loss when I reached out to Randall. This was almost 2 years ago now. And Randall really, he was like, here's some books. Here's an explanation. I had so many questions about this, and this. And you went through you were so patient with me, Randall, answering all of my tedious questions. And he really helped me to find more people who were already doing this work and helping people with earthbounds. And so that's why I wanted to invite you on today, Randall, because I wouldn't be doing this work today if it wasn't for you.
Well, I took the time with you, Laura, because I knew you were patient and I knew you would do something with it. So,
yeah.
So that's why, and you're more than welcome. And I'll do this for anybody if they ask. I mean, it's pretty simple, but yeah, and you're welcome. Not a problem at all. And again, I'll say we all need to be doing more and more of this because it just blows my mind at how many people are still stuck here.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta let go. You gotta let go and go on. Seriously,
Yeah.
you gotta let go and go on.
Yeah.
But you're welcome. Not a problem at all. It was my pleasure, and it always is my pleasure.
That was definitely a divine appointment, as they say.
I would say so too.
Yeah.
And it's fun because when you educate one person and that one person runs with it and then tells 1,000 more, and then those 1,000 tell another 1,000. This is how we change the world.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I must say, Randall, would love to hang out with you in person someday. Maybe we could do a retreat and maybe do some clearings in person because we would really love that.
That'd be great. That would be great.
They say, every single soul we cross over, every single entity that we send to source, we're slightly ticking the vibration up more and more and more. We're raising the vibration of this planet every single clearing we do.
I find it to be ironic that we're all doing this now as heavily as we are with everything that's going on around us too, because we are going through change. So we are, hopefully we're lighting the load for the vibrations to go up a little higher. Hopefully.
Yeah.
The vibrations seem to be doing a lot of this.
Oh, they are. Fasten your seatbelts and hang on.
Yep.
Keep your hands in the vehicle at all times.
Yeah, I need a 5-point harness for this ride.
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding.
Oh, man. So just curious, Randall, how do you spend your Halloween?
Well, other than this right here, my daughter and I are going to pass out candy tonight, just kind of hang out. I'll spend some time up at the farm and do some meditating. They're really, for me, there's not a Halloween. It's just another day. Anyways, I believe
for you, every day is Halloween, technically. When you're
absolutely, honestly, it is. Honestly, it is. Every day's Halloween, So we're always honoring souls and always crossing people over. So it's 24/7, 365 days a year. It's Halloween for me. I just don't dress up for it.
The only difference with today is the veil's a little thinner and it makes it easier for us to do our work.
It absolutely is. It makes it easier, but makes it more tough too, because there's others coming out here too that's stepping in. Hey, you can't be here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did wonder that, when it comes to, because they talk about the earthbounds and it being a day that the spirits are very active, but it's not just the earthbounds that are active; it's also the entities.
It's you're not kidding. Right. You're not kidding. It's the whole solar system too.
Yeah.
What's interesting too? I had one person I believe it was the Tagetans that said this, and I don't know if this is true or not. I'll have to check. But they said part of the reason why the veil is so thin on today of all days is this is the anniversary of the Tiamat disaster and the Great Flood.
It could be.
That this is the day that so much, because we had it was like probably the biggest cataclysm the earth has ever experienced at that point. All that
trauma.
So all of that trauma, they say that's part of the reason why the veil is so thin, why it's the thinnest today. So it could have been, it could be that today was the day Atlantis was destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, we got more work in front of us.
We certainly do. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for this chat today. This was a really fun one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Laura.
And thank you for dressing up, Randall, and playing along. I love it.
Not a problem.
So I'm going to share your podcast because you guys, when I found this podcast, it was probably one of the best podcasts I had ever seen up until that point. And that is why I reached out to Randall. I absolutely loved it. So I'm just going to share that link for those of you who are interested in, there we go, Jeff Mara podcast. You always know who Jeff Mara is? I'm sure some of you do. So this is how I found Randall, was through this podcast. It's an oldie but a goodie. And Randall talks about the clearing work he does. He tells some really cool stories about some stuff. So I highly recommend checking out that podcast later today if you have some time. And don't forget, we also shared in our Spirit Release and Lost Soul Rescue group, we shared the links to be able to watch the Salem clearings that we did the other day on both Friday and Saturday. So it was really cool, Randall. We ended up crossing over each one of the witch trial victims individually.
Awesome.
So we got to have a conversation with each one of them.
Awesome. And how did they feel?
Mixed opinions, right, Bradley?
It was a mixture, yeah, for sure.
Some of them didn't know they were dead.
Yep.
Some of them knew full well. Some of them were in dark voids. Some of them were still just wandering around. One lady was still waiting for her husband, who was a fisherman. That was a really
Did
they
ever ask why?
one.
Did they ever ask why?
They knew. I think most of them knew that people just went nuts. In fact, that was the most important thing I think that we told them, is that everybody now knows they're innocent. That it's common knowledge that they're innocent, that nobody believes that they are a witch anymore, that they had done anything wrong, that it was basically like religious hysteria that took over. And they, in many cases, already knew that, because they knew they were innocent.
Yeah.
I mean, they're being called things like the witch king of hell. Like, I mean, like the shit that people were saying was so nonsensical that they knew they were innocent. Of course they knew. So what they didn't know is that we now know that they were innocent. And to hear that, many of them were very relieved to know that they've been exonerated in a way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Proud of you.
There was a few that had already crossed over. George Burroughs is one of them.
George Burroughs. George.
He had actually been helping all the families out from the other side. That was his purpose, was crossing over. And when I seen him, he was just surrounded, enveloped with white light. I mean, so vibrantly bright. And he basically explained that his mission was to help all the families from the trauma. And so he was just doing what he could to help from the other side, from all the trauma.
300 years he was on the other side, helping the families, helping the victim, doing everything that he could from his perspective,
Yeah.
There's no time. Yeah. There's no time. You're just holding space.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the 333rd anniversary.
Imagine that.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it was happening exactly when it was meant to.
Yep. It goes out to 9. 9's the God number.
Yeah.
That's right.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
So Randall, I'll send you that recording if you would like to see it, because it was beautiful. It took us nearly 3 hours just to get you that.
I literally crashed for 2 hours after that. I took a 2-hour nap because I was like, oh my gosh, I've never tapped in that long.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be in that frame of mind for so long and just maintain.
On a different level. It's not like I've been physically exhausted and mentally and all that, but energetically exhausted is a whole different level of exhaustion.
Absolutely. It's very taxing to maintain that high of vibration. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I'm so proud of you guys. I am so proud of you guys. You guys are doing awesome work. Absolutely.
Thank you, Randall.
That means the world.
Man,
Randall. It really does.
It's a pleasure to know you both.
Yes. It's a pleasure to know you. And honestly, it's wonderful, Randall, to see, like I said, you educated us and now we're educating others, and who knows how far that'll be down, going down the grapevine.
Call me Pebble. Call me Pebble.
Making ripples.
That's right. It's awesome.
Wonderful. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this little chat on Halloween. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening. We will be doing a Lost Soul Rescue today. We're going to be clearing a whole bunch of very spooky locations. We picked some really interesting ones. So make sure that you guys check it out. We'll drop the link in the group shortly. Cool. Lots of love, everyone. See you soon.
Love you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.